on everything that I had been going through, from all my failures in the NBA, all my injuries, everything. And I just talked a lot about fear or fearlessness, faith, and that whole concept, and just my experience in China. So I'm in Palo Alto, California, and I'm spending a lot of time with family. I actually was just moving a ton of stuff into storage, sliced my hand open. It was bleeding all over me on the car ride back, but I'm good to go. And we've been training every single day, and we've been putting in a ton of work, and so we're just getting ready for this NBA comeback. Okay, that's a good one. What made me motivated to go back to the NBA? I think at the end of the day, it was really just one thing, and I tried to, I've thought about it. I haven't really explained it that thoroughly, but the one question I kept asking myself is, when I see God face to face, and because this is the toughest decision of my life, was because everything in China was so amazing. And I love playing in the CBA, and I love playing for the Beijing Ducks, and so it was so hard to leave. But I just thought to myself, look, I have this NBA dream, and I thought, God, when I see you face to face, do I want to be able to say that I made this decision with tremendous faith or with less faith? And I felt like the thing that required more faith was to put everything that was comfortable, that I knew that I had worked for, to put that to the side and to go all in for the NBA. And so that's what I'm doing. Robert, what's up, bro? So that's what I'm doing. And hopefully, I'm gonna take you guys along this journey with me. We are working really hard every day, and I can't wait to see what's gonna happen in the future. How tall was I in 9th grade? 5'3". What's up from Malaysia? To me, success at this point is it's definitely a lot more about the journey, how I go about the journey, because time flies. I felt like it was yesterday when I was 21, just graduated from college, and now I'm an old man where I have to ice my knees and do all these stretches that I never have to do before and after all my workouts, and so time flies, and my career or my life is gonna go in the blink of an eye. And so for me, success nowadays is really enjoying the journey, doing things for the right reason, even taking moments throughout the day or throughout a workout just to pause and embrace what's going on. Even during a season, if we're on a bus and we're taking a bus ride, it's to be able to pause and be like, man, I'm on a bus playing professional basketball. And of course, I still have very high bars, high goals, and those things, and that's one form of success. And I'm not saying I'm not chasing those things, but there are other forms of success as well. And really, and maybe I'm not sure if I have this fully thought out, but one version of success I would say is, if I went for this, right now I'm going for this NBA comeback, success to me would almost be not worried about the result. That I could be so free that no matter what happens, no matter what the end result is, that if I went through it in confidence and fearlessness, and if I really, really went for it, it's almost as if the result was secondary to how I went about going to achieve that result. And that's why I'm talking about how so much now where I'm at mentally is just in a new place where it's dude, I'm just going for it, man. I don't have time to think about the consequences. I don't have time to think about all the different pressures. I don't have time to think about the what ifs and the hypotheticals. At the end of the day, I'm going for it. I know what I'm capable of doing. I believe in myself, and that's the bottom line, and that's it. My faith lowest was definitely college, or even my first couple years in the NBA, because I felt like I talked about being a believer, but my lifestyle didn't add up to it. And in all honesty, I was a hypocrite, and so I went through two stretches where it was really bad. One was when I first just got to college, and the other one was when I first just got to the NBA for the first 2 to 3 years. And so faith was always important, but I was fighting this huge tension between the tug of the world and the tug of Jesus. And I really struggled in that tension, made some mistakes, bad decisions. When was my faith the highest? Honestly, I feel like my faith has always been the highest and the strongest in a lot of my valleys. So you're talking Brooklyn Nets injury. You're talking about this past season, about a year ago, when I went through free agency and I wasn't able to get an NBA contract. I went to the CBA and went through a lot there. And so Even in some of my tough years, playing for the Lakers, I think at that time we set the franchise record for worst record in the history of the franchise or something like that. And that was a really, really tough situation. And so, I feel like in the moments when I really had my back against the wall, I felt like God really, really came through for me. And that's when my faith was the strongest. When am I going back to Toronto? That's a good question. Well, hopefully with COVID and everything, we get a vaccine soon. Everything goes back to normal. Hopefully the NBA situation becomes more normal where there isn't a bubble. And then this off season, I'm preparing for an NBA comeback. I'm gonna go get a nice opportunity, and then whenever we play the Raptors, unless I'm with the Raptors, then that's when I'll be in Toronto next. But Toronto has some amazing food for sure. I felt like I needed to put my heart on the line and tell the story of what I went through. And I know that it wasn't, I know that talking about my fears and insecurities and all those things, and it wasn't like, it's not easy to do, because I think it's already hard enough to kind of talk about it with family and friends and stuff, but to be able to really bring that out and share that with the world, especially on my own platform, I felt like that was something that I've never done before. But at my age, and this is, I just finished my 10th year of professional basketball, I'm kind of like, hey, look, if there's anything I want to be, it's authentic, and I want to say what's on my mind. I want to share what I'm going through, and if it can encourage you guys, it can. And not everything's always amazing and pretty and sexy in terms of my career or anybody's career. Two things that I learned this past season that really helped me. One, worship. I feel like I wake up and all I think about is like, all right, what do I need to do today? What do I need to accomplish today? What's my schedule? What do I want to get done? What do I want to do? What do I want to eat? And I just get so wired into thinking about myself. Worship, I just started, I used to worship, and after one song, like I would go to church, I'd sing a worship song, and then after one song, I'd be like, dude, I need some water. Like, I'm parched. And then after two songs, I'd be like, oh man, I really can't do this. My throat is just like super dry. And then when they would start playing the third or fourth worship song, I would just be like, oh, can we please just get to the sermon? And then, this past season, I just started trying to worship more. And what ended up happening was there were times when I would go 45 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour straight worshiping. And I just felt like listening and actually singing the lyrics to God gave me a whole different perspective. It was just like this weight was lifted off of me, and I wasn't just worried about myself and what I needed to accomplish today. And it wasn't all about me. The second thing is gratitude. And so I started a gratitude journal, and 5 things in the morning that I'm grateful for, 5 things at night that I'm grateful for. And that has also changed a lot of things in terms of not allowing me to get so roped up and caught up in my own stuff. And in general, I'm thankful for so many other things. I'm even able to verbally say it to people around me and thank them for things way more easily, way more often. It's just much more top of mind. So yeah, that's what I learned this past season. For sure, I'm gonna have fears. Realistically, I'm gonna be honest. I talk about faith over fear, but faith over fear is not a one-time thing. This is not like I did it today, so boom, I'm done. No, it's gonna come every day. It's gonna come when there's adversity. It's gonna come when I'm tired. It's gonna come when maybe I feel like I didn't do well, or maybe I played a bad game, or maybe I had a bad workout. This fear will constantly creep up. And that's just who we are as humans. It's not really about whether you experience the fear. It's more about what you do when you experience that fear. And so, yeah, the fear of uncertainty, does that freak me out? Absolutely sometimes. If I allow myself to continue thinking about it, I'm like, man, I don't know what the future holds. I don't know anything. But I think it's what you do with that, which is why, in my testimony, I talk a lot about having these different verses. And so, I actually have all these different fears and all these different verses to combat them. But even more so, it's in those moments, because I lived my last 2, 3, 4 years in fear, and then I experienced what it was like to get out of it, it's like I could never go back. So when I start to drift back, I immediately stop myself, because it's I never want to live that life again. And you know, I don't know if this is a good analogy. It's probably not a good analogy, so take it with a grain of salt. But it's just like if anybody has some level of something that they experienced in the past, whether it's an addiction or whether it's some type of pressure or anxiety or anything, and it's like, dude, I never want to live that life again, or I never want to experience that, or I never want to be that type of person. And that's just how I am with being fearful and just like always having this fear and these doubts like a dark cloud over me. You know, I think at the end of the day, for me, it always comes down to, I mean, life, a big part of life is who you surround yourself with. I mean, even after, you know, as we go through life and everything, it's like, who are you close to? What memories do you have? What experiences do you have? What relationships do you have? These things are so important. And so for me, yeah, I can't be in a stable place. I haven't lived anywhere for more than like one season, maybe 2 seasons at the most. And I'm always moving, but I still have the same people around me. And so for my family, my friends, like JWA, my trainer on the side, you know, it's not just that he trains me. We do a lot of stuff, and we read and we pray, and we're doing all types of stuff during this past season. You know, there are times where we were praying 3 times a day together. There are times when we would just get on our knees and we would pray to God. There are times when we read books together. You know, my brothers and my parents and my sister-in-law and you know, even my agent, they're all believers, and they do a lot to encourage me in my faith. And so I'm always keeping my core circle around me tight and the same. And I think that's an encouragement to you guys, is make sure you surround yourself with people that are pushing you to become better people, to become better Christians, to be thinking about life with a different perspective, to be chasing the things that have value and purpose. This is the part in the testimony that I didn't even get close to being able to express, because there's so many things that happen. I'll just share one. I'll share 2 or 3 examples. The first one was during COVID, when COVID really broke out and a season paused for 5 months. I have a prayer journal, and so every Wednesday I pray for my team, and I was just continuing to pray for my teammates. And I randomly messaged one of my teammates. I was like, hey, you know, this is January or February. We didn't even know if the season was going to, we all thought the season was going to be canceled. But I just messaged him, was like, hey man, I just want to let you know I'm praying for you. Next thing you know, fast forward a couple weeks or a couple months, and we're in quarantine. And I messaged him again. I'm like, hey man, just to let you know, it's Wednesday again. I'm still praying for you. And but I didn't know at that time, he had a conversation with somebody else that he was really close with, and he started reading the Bible from cover to cover. And during this stretch, I mean, it was just, I was like so awkward. Like, I didn't want to send a text message because, you know, we don't always talk about faith, and I don't want to be like, hey dude, I'm praying for you, because that sounds really, it could be potentially really awkward. But I was like, hey, just want to let you know I'm praying for you. And that started conversations. Next thing you know, I found out he's reading the Bible cover to cover, and next thing you know, we're, you know, fast forward even a couple months later, and it's like, we're singing worship songs together before games. We're watching sermons every single Sunday. We're sharing prayer requests. We're loving our other teammates, you know, and things like that. There's another one where, you know, I was just doing a 3-day fast to try to pray, fast, and hear from God. And this was during my 14-day quarantine, so I was like locked in this room. And I was praying to God, and I was like, God, if you could give me, just open a door so that I can have a conversation with somebody about you. I was like, I just want to talk to somebody about my life, my story, my journey. And randomly, the guy who was kind of in charge of like picking up our meals, he had to drop off and pick up our meals, but he had to stay really far away. He had to have a hazmat suit on and everything. He was just super far away. And I was just like, hey man, no, I don't need any food. And I did that for 3 days, and finally he was kind of like, why are you not eating? And from a distance, I just explained like, hey, it's because I'm doing, it's my faith. It's this thing called a fast where you don't eat. And he was like, hey, when you get out of quarantine, I would love to ask you more about that. It was through that first interaction, and that's the door that God opened. And we ended up having all of my teammates at some of these sessions where we were just sharing about our stories, our faith, and things like that. So I mean, seriously, like, I'm talking about, like, it's not like 1, 2, 3, there's like 10, 20, 30 like different ways where it's like, if I took a step of faith, God honored that and he met me there. Good morning from America to the people in Malaysia.